live. Hello, everyone. So, what we're going to be doing tonight, and I apologize for the delay, had a little bit of a microphone issue. But what we're going to talk about tonight is sharpening an image. So, I've got a couple of images that we're going to use here, and I'll have them up in just a minute. When it comes to sharpening, it can help out quite a bit for a bodybuilder photograph. However, there are certain times when it's too sharp, when it actually causes issues with things that you would normally not want to have sharp. For example, a woman might not want her face sharpened. A man might not want that much detail on his body. He might want his muscles to be shown, but less detail. One thing I like to use sharpening for is to bring back to life um, and highlight tattoos. I have a couple myself. I know what they mean to me, and people who get tattoos typically do that because it has meaning to them as well. So I try to make sure that uh, they're well cared for. Okay. So as you can see down here, we'll start with this image here, which is one of the tattoo images that I talked about earlier. We'll zoom in here so that we get to the tattoo. Now, unlike a traditional bodybuilder, you'll notice that he has not removed all his hair, and it looks pixelated. You would never, ever print out something this big. This would be the size of a building. But we're going to do this just so that we can show off the change. Now you can see the detail that comes in. The before, and here's the after. Here's where the problem comes in. And that is simply, there's the before, there's the after. Certain things look just fine. For example, watch his jeans here as we take them out and bring them back in. Adds a little lighting to them. You can see the material a little better. Look at how it changes the background. So if you remember, one thing Photoshop allows you to do is have these masks. So if I take that mask and I invert it, now you'll notice when I turn this on and off, nothing happens. But I can take my paintbrush beyond that mask, make my brush a little larger, and paint over the tattoo. Which is a really cool tribal tattoo. And if I wanted to, I could come down here and do the same thing with his pants. And now with the before and the after, you can see the difference, and it's limited to where we want the uh, detail to be. Now, let's take just a regular bodybuilder photograph. When I do this, look at how much sharper he looks. And let's zoom in here a little bit and look at his midsection. See how much cleaner the abs look? It even highlights out the vascularity. But here's where it becomes a problem. It's not a bad picture and it separates him from the background, but as I do this, you will notice that it is now sharpening the background and bringing some of this crap that we really don't care about more into focus. So in this case, what we would probably do is separate him out. So if I go down to here, my initial layer, select subject, we'll see how it does. And see, it does a pretty good job of selecting him out of it. We turn that into a mask. Now we're going to take this mask and make it go away. And then we're going to bring this up and put it in as the mask on that section. And now everything in the background is still out of focus and he looks sharp. Now the other thing we can do is we can take that down and we can cut it down to, let's say, 80%. And if something still looks like it's too much, like his hair, we can still go back with the paintbrush, grab that mask, paint this time in black. Black says don't do it here in a mask. And now we have less to his hair. His ear, you'll notice, becomes a little bit too bright. So we could actually just go over the ear. Make sure I've got that. And now you notice the ear doesn't brighten up quite as much as it did before. And that's coming from this background that we have. Let me actually take my flow all the way up to 100%. That'll give me more solid black without having to go around it as much. And you can see the difference. And then, like I said, on a woman, we'll zoom into her face. Now, when we turn the sharpening on, see what it does to her face. It's not very flattering. And something else to notice here is if you look at her hair, which was not cleaned up, and sharpening doesn't do the best for the hair, especially in the back area. So again, taking our mask, and painting over, see how her face smooths out? We're not smoothing the face, we're actually taking away the effect that we created to sharpen the rest of her. Now, there's places I'm not going to unsharpen or take this away from. I'm not going to take it away from her lips, and I'm not going to take it away from her eyes. That way the eyes are still sharp. I do want to take it away from at least the areas of the hair that are on the edges. Now, depending on what you want the image to look like, you might actually go through and um, remove these hairs, which you can do by making them just disappear in the background. Before, after. Okay. So now if we pull down here and go out, you can see the before and after on there. And you can see if there's any other areas that you want to take out. But look at how it highlights the structure. Now, this is before. Actually, this picture is after I've already done my retouching. So I'd already darkened in the areas that I wanted to pull them out. This image was pre-retouch. And you can see how much better it looks just with the sharpening on there. And if I took it another step further by doing the retouching and then sharpening it, it would do what it does here, make it even more well-defined. So again, just like in everything else that I've talked to you guys about, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice. If you want to do this kind of work, it's not something you're going to be able to do overnight, obviously. It's going to take time to go through and do each of these things. I had started a project back in 2019 where I wanted to take pictures of people's loved ones who they'd lost. And this might be the only picture that they have, and it might not be that good. For example, one was a picture of a woman's mother, and it was very Kodachrome. For you older photographers, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Kodachrome was more than just a piece talked about on Simon and Garfunkel song. It was a entire way of looking at a photograph. It impacted the colors, it impacted the paper, it impacted a lot of the presentation of the image. In this particular case, between it being washed out with the sun and the Kodachrome on it, it needed to be restored. The colors needed to be changed and things, so I did that. But before taking on the project, I grabbed hundreds of stock photographs and just kept going. Now, why do that? Every photographer has their voice. They have their particular way of doing things, of looking at images. In some cases, that voice should be, well, in all cases, you should be working with your client. But in some cases, that voice is going to be overridden. But in other cases, you may see something in a way that your client wouldn't. So you present it to them and let them decide. So when I look at, for example, this image, I like the fact that so much of it pops now. I know that for a female bodybuilder, at least my partner was always this way. She was very particular about the way her suit looked, the way the jewelry was. So at the very least, I would want to make sure that that was sharp and very clean. In other images, maybe not so much. Maybe he likes the way his body looks here, but he doesn't like how sharp his face is. So we would do the same thing we did with hers, is take the face out. There's one thing you'll notice in this particular image is that stubble really comes through now. You can see that detail and what it does to the face and the stubble. If you wanted it to look less pointy, shall we say, let's say you wanted it to kind of blend together more, we could do the same thing that we did with the hair, and that's just paint over it. And now because of that, it looks a little fuller. So that might be something that he's interested in. Same goes with the woman in her eyebrows. Maybe they look a little more full if you go through and take the sharpening effect away, which is what I did in this case. I did everything but the eyes and the lips. So the face got a little bit softer, but unlike some of the other softening techniques that literally take the image and blur, put a light blur on the face, I took the original image, sharpened it. All I did was remove the sharpening from certain areas. So the image was still as sharp as it originally was. It just didn't have that extra sharpening in those areas. So I hope you guys like this particular video. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.